Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. I want to talk a little bit about the Olympics, specifically China and the United States, and some very interesting situations going on there. China, the Chinese Communist Party, that is going after anybody that criticizes Chinese athletes, and they're going after them in a very hard way, talking about people in China, of course. And then you've got a Chinese sports official now who may be defecting and on the lam. We will talk about that. And then I think one of the most interesting aspects of the Olympics is ping pong. We know that the Chinese people excel at ping pong. They are typically the greatest ping pong players on the face of the earth. Well, the United States women's team beat the Chinese women's team. And lo and behold, when I tell you China's great, it took the United States having Chinese Americans to beat the Chinese. That's the female American team that beat the Chinese in the Olympics in Paris. Now, you've got to believe that Xi Jinping is not happy about this, that he got beat by his own. So what does he do? Well, he's given some indications of what he does when Chinese Americans are very good. He recruits them to come play for China. Is that going to happen for any of these young ladies, who we are all, by the way, so very proud of for their victory over China and their success in the Olympics? So with that, folks, let's get the show started. We'll bring in our friends over the new federal state of China. Ayla Wang is with us. Let's get it going. Here we go.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, as promised, Ayla Wang is with us with the new federal state of China, the organization aimed at bringing down the CCP once and for all. Ayla, welcome to the program.
Grant, thank you so much for having me today.
All right, Ayla, I couldn't help but get a kick out of the fact that it took the United States recruiting the best Chinese players. They're American, but Chinese people of Chinese descent to beat the Chinese. Xi Jinping cannot be happy about this.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I want to congratulations for the girls who won the gold medals, in the ping pong game. But the problem here is that you were correct, right? Chinese people were excellent at playing ping pong. And if you look, if you want me to tell the difference between Chinese ping pong team and the American ping pong team, I would say that the three Chinese American girls are very lucky, because in China, if you want to win the candidacy to play for Olympics, usually girls sacrifice even more than men does, right? And that does not meaning physically with the condition of your physical health. It also means that that they need to bribe their coach. They sometimes girls also was asked to sleep with their coach in order for them to actually play in the Olympic Games. This is how Chinese Communist Party works. And, I would say that all the three Chinese American girls on the USA team, they could never imagine a life of playing ping pong for the Chinese Communist Party. And in terms of the end results, the USA beats Chinese team. However, the players are having, Chinese heritage and they were able to speak Mandarin fluently in the interviews, right? And the problem here is that what the Chinese Communist Party can do is that CCP and with their proxies overseas, they could reach out to their agents and their coaches and ask these girls to play for China in future games. They can pay for them to do the citizenship change, like what Eileen Gu does. So everything is possible, but you can tell from the smiles that people who play for CCP and people does not play for CCP, they have different smiles.
Which is very interesting, I think. And the people in the countries also have very different smiles when you're in a country that embraces freedom versus a country that doesn't. I will say this, though, not to throw a dark cloud over it, but the United States has had some problems with coaches and players, specifically gymnastics. I think there were some figure skating issues, abuse issues, sexual abuse issues, and some of these things. So that kind of thing goes on everywhere. But we know, I think the CCP is even more strong-handed with these things than the United States is. The United States, they try to sneak it. The CCP, they'll do it right in front of your face and not even ask for apology, which is just how brutal they are. You mentioned this skier. How do you say her name?
Eileen Gu.
Eileen Gu. Okay, so she is a United States citizen born here, her mother of Chinese descent. She's a fabulous skier. You say that the Chinese Communist Party recruited her to go ski for China. Is that correct?
That was correct. That was actually one of the biggest news in Winter Olympics, earlier on. And if you search on Eileen Gu, she's now a student at Stanford University. But if you check, of her family background, right, her mother and her grandparents, all of them worked for Chinese Communist Party for a very long time. And her mother actually was able to, negotiate and link the U.S. investments from Wall Street to China. From very long time ago, the connection between CCP and her mother has been establishing. So it was not surprising that children of these individuals who have very deep ties with the CCP now are working for the Chinese Communist Party and played for China. In fact, that one of the famous interview of Eileen Gu was when the reporter is trying to ask whether she still has American citizenship, and she avoids the question completely. She said that she was thankful to both countries of their support, of their trainings, but she did not even specify whether she still has American citizenship.
Wow. Do you think if Xi Jinping, and I've got to believe Xi Jinping is a gold or nothing guy. I'm that kind of guy, too. This may be the one place where I probably agree with Xi Jinping on is that I think you're either winning. If you got silver medal, then you're the first loser. OK, that's my look at a silver medal. A little harsh, but I do believe this. I have to believe Xi Jinping probably thinks the same way. If he recruits some of these Chinese American players to come over and play ping pong for China, or like Gu, the skier who skis for China, do they get special treatment above what the Chinese athletes get? I mean, you've got to keep them there. I don't think you can't hold them hostage as you could in China to a Chinese citizen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what was being treated that all of these foreign athletes, most of them were treated differently than the Chinese athletes. They get paid with a higher salary. They have more coverage of the news outlet. They gain more influence. They was able to have access to more commercial activities in China. Whereas that if you are just a regular Chinese athlete under the Chinese Communist Party system, all of your income sources are strictly controlled by the system. It was not only Xi himself, the entire system. Those Chinese sports officials believe that if you can't win the first place, you're a loser, right? You're nothing. And if you think about hundreds of thousands of athletes went into these competition each year, you could only tell very few names out of it. And what happened to the other side of the sports, right? What happened to the rest of the group? People never remember them. If you got injured from the sports, sometimes even your health insurance, even your health Medicare was not covered by the team. Mm-hmm. This is what Chinese athletes facing every day when they work for CCP.
Yes. And I will say it's on another level, but I will also say that in many respects, big time athletics in the United States is very much the same thing. You might have insurance if you get to a very high level, but if you're a college athlete with a huge career on the way and you get injured, the school might take care of you, some of your insurance needs for a point, and you fall out. I mean, that's just the bottom line and the way it goes. But clearly, I think Xi Jinping, the Chinese Communist Party, look at their athletes more as maybe cattle, and maybe the United States, we look at them as high-priced racehorses. The racehorses maybe get a little more, but you're still horses. We still own you and you still work for us. This goes for professional athletes, too, in the United States. But maybe you're on a little higher plane than you are for the Chinese Communist Party, Ayla.
Mm-hmm. But I would say, the major difference is that USA athletes was able to whistleblow, right? They were able to choose a career. If they don't want to play for USA, they were able to choose another career. They can open up a gym, they can become a social media influencer. They have many, many choices ahead of them. However, if you are an athlete under the Chinese Communist Party, what happened to you, if you were about, to say something against the system? If you were to decided to say something against the Chinese Communist Party, you look at, you look at our supporters, Hao Haidong, Mr. Hao Haidong, and Ms. Ye Zhaoying. They are famous Chinese athletes. Mr. Hao was was named as Asia footballer. And Miss Ye was actually a world champion in badminton games. However, when they decided to support the new federal state of China, when they decided to support the ideology of taking down the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP deleted all relevant information on Chinese social media, internet, on all of the Chinese search engines, like they never exist in China.
It's what a great way to contrast what I told you, because boy, that is the difference. That at least you can rebound in the United States, but if you speak out against the Chinese Communist Party, you're that's it. You're basically, your life is over. We're here in the United States. If you speak out against somebody, you may get fired, but you can go make your career somebody else. Nobody's going to stop you from doing that. And in fact, you can often make a better career as a whistleblower and have other opportunities come before you where not so much in China under Chinese Communist Party rule. So I appreciate you for making that distinction. I did find it interesting that these female athletes, the Chinese Americans who beat China in ping pong, were asked to do an interview by Chinese state media, and they agreed to it. And not only did they agree to the interview, they did it in Mandarin China. So I thought Mandarin Chinese. I thought it would be interesting to have you maybe translate some of this, because I was dying to hear what they had to say, and maybe more importantly, what these state reporters of China were asking them. So if you don't mind, Ayla, let's do that a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Here we go. This is the American team being interviewed by Chinese state media.
那刚才 Lily 说了是更想跟马龙配，觉得马龙也是这样一个乒乓界的这个 GO 一样的这样人物嘛？啊，你对这样如果能有和马龙来配混双，你觉得是一种什么样的感觉会？
All right. So that's the reporter question. What was she asking them?
So she was, the reporter was asking if they were to match with one of the best Chinese ping pong player, Ma Long is a male Chinese ping pong player. How would this girl respond? How would this girl feel about it?
And so this is probably in an effort to prop up Chinese athletes and have the United States say, "Oh, I love them. That's my hero." Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
All right. So let's listen.
那肯定是一个梦想 I don't know how to dream come true 他就是我感觉乒乓球里面的就是个 GOAT 怎么说 legend
Yeah, legend, yeah, 传奇
所以如果能跟他配那就太高兴了
因为之前中国队
All right, so I don't understand. I heard legend in there. I don't understand Chinese, but these ladies look like they're giddy as if they're about to meet Taylor Swift.
That's correct, Grant. You are absolutely correct. So the girl specifically pointed out that he thinks the Chinese male, ping pong player Ma Long is considered as the legend in the sports industry. And so if she was able to play with Ma Long, and it was absolutely, a dream come true.
All right. So my belief is this is all orchestrated and by design by whoever is running state media, whoever's in charge of propaganda and messaging. They specifically want the soundbite from the American athlete saying my hero is the Chinese athlete, and they want to play that all across China.
Absolutely, Grant. You were correct. It was not just only targeted with the three, Chinese athletes, right? Obviously, there are great athletes in Chinese team. We're not, we're opposing against the CCP. We're not saying that we're opposing against the Chinese people. The problem here is that you were correct. CCP orchestrated these questions in a way so that the state media have materials that they can report and conduct propaganda among the Chinese people. And the problem here is that you look at, the simple smiles on the three girls, right? They were not, having that much defense against the reporters' questions. They were treated as a normal interview questions because in their hearts, they do, they do have the dream of playing with best sports, players in ping pong, and that's perfectly fine. But however, the way that the CCP orchestrate the interview and the way that they make out the propaganda is problematic.
Yeah. All right. Let's just play a little bit more.
有去过美国不是合练过吗？那个时候有跟马龙就是有交流或者是配合过吗？
没有。
All right. What did she ask?
They said that Malone, the Chinese, male ping pong player actually went to visit for training. So they said that whether they have actually met each other during his USA training.
Okay.
美国，但是我跟他照过相，然后有说个嗨。
那 Rachel 呢？
如果可以的话，我想跟樊振东也是喜欢他，喜欢了很多年。如果可以的话，也是梦想成真。
很多年是多少？
All right, so it's so funny. They're so kind of shy and giddy about talking about this man as if it's Justin Bieber. It's the funniest thing to me. And he's a ping pong player. I mean, I have no idea that ping pong can invoke this kind of reaction from people, but who would have ever known? Ayla, what was their response to the question?
Right. So they said that, they were able to actually meet him during his USA trips. And they were, only said hello, had greetings with each other and took photos with him. They were very shy, as you can tell from their facial expressions. And the reporter asked another girl, Rachel, to say, what was her thoughts or reaction. And he gave out, another player's name. He said that, my dream was that if I can play with another player, I would be very happy because I consider him as a goal, in my career path. So as you can tell, they have no defense against, the Chinese reporter. But however, the questions were made, the questions were listed intentionally for them.
All right, let me ask you this question, because when I look at their responses to this, I mean, they seem like it's as if I got to meet back in the day. I love the New York Knicks, Patrick Ewing or something, or my New York Yankees, and got to go hang out with Derek Jeter or something. So it looks to me like Xi Jinping could prey on this and come to these girls and say, hey, well, if you want to hang out with this, we can get you in the same training facility as him. You'll see him every day when you guys are training. Come play for us.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what the Chinese Communist Party will do, and to reach out the hands of all overseas athletes, right? You've seen people abandon their own home countries of citizenship and play for Chinese sports team. It happens not only to ping pong, to every single sector of the sports area. And in fact, that this is what CCP Sports Committee has been doing for all the times.
All right. All of it is just fascinating to me to see how this all works at this level of competition. Amazing. Now, speaking of this level of competition, you had told me before we came on that there is a Chinese sports official who is now has whistleblower status as far as blowing the whistle on Chinese Communist Party. He has, and correct me if I'm wrong here, he has disappeared, and the speculation is he may claim asylum or seek asylum in France. Can you give me some information about this whistleblower and what the situation is?
Absolutely. So the whistleblower was a deputy director of the Cycling and Fencing Management Center of the General Sports of the Chinese Communist Party. In short, he was accompanying the Chinese Olympics delegations traveling from China to France. And earlier on, he was actually whistleblowed and criticized about the fake propaganda of the Chinese Communist Party over the Olympic times. And so he made several social media posts on one of the largest social media platform in China, Weibo. And then, obviously the government found, his posts and started to clear all of his social media posts and suspended his accounts. So this, representative from the CCP sports official then disappeared from the public. There are information claiming that, this official might seek political asylum in France. However, we do not have, enough information or intelligence to confirm that. But what we can make, what we are, certain is that now that this person, this representative has actually disappeared from the public, there are several other possibilities. He could be controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. He could be silenced. He could be taken back to his home country, China, as well. He could also, if he was able to do that, he could also escape from the Chinese Olympics delegation and try to seek asylum in France.
All right. So from doing this now for, I don't know, maybe a couple of years with you guys, the new federal state of China, hearing stories like this and the whistleblowers, when you spell this out to me, I give literally 2 scenarios with a 50-50 chance of either scenario. Maybe a little more going to the fact that the Chinese Communist Party now has him in their custody. He is now under their control, and who knows if we ever see or hear from him again. I give that a real strong possibility. The other possibility that he goes underground and he tries to get to a safe place and then claims asylum. Both have, I think, you know what, as I talk it out, Ayla, I don't know, maybe I'm sad to say, maybe the possibility of China having him in their control may be more of a greater chance than this guy has escaped.
Well, we're always having the best hopes, right?
Yes.
So we hope that this representative and whistleblower would be able to seek asylum and live safely overseas, right? In fact, that all of these escape from the CCP sports system has been taking place for over decades. We've heard stories from other Chinese athletes, famous athletes, also known as our supporters, Miss Ye Zhaoying, that when she was young, she heard many stories about CCP delegations went overseas to attend certain games. It could be Olympics, it could be other war games, and when they returned, right, they found one athlete missing. Only empty suitcases was left in the hotel, and that the athlete was missing. And that happened all over the time. It happened not only today, it happened since decades ago. So you can tell, right, when Chinese Communist Party were able to actually travel overseas, when Chinese people were able to live in a freedom-loving environment, the first thing that they can do is that they want to seek freedom. They want to escape from communism. This is what the Chinese people have been making their own choices since decades ago. And today, you've also seen more and more whistleblowers now coming up to speak against the fake propaganda, to speak against the CCP. This is the true will of the Chinese people, and this is the true will of the sports.
Well, I will hope and say some prayers that he is in safe hands rather than in unsafe hands, because that would be the best outcome of all. I don't know if I should even ask you. You don't have to answer if it puts the new federal state of China in any trouble, but or in a bad spot. I mean, I would think NFSC would be one of the first groups that a whistleblower like this would try to contact and get some help to. Have you had any contact with this guy?
Well, I am not quite sure because, obviously I do not work in the sports industry. But I think that, many of these representatives and delegations, because of their, levels and rankings under the Chinese Communist Party, they absolutely hear news or updates from the new federal state of China merely because the NFSC has huge impacts among the Chinese people, especially with inside of the Chinese Communist Party. So I would say, lots of these whistleblowers and lots of the athletes who are against the CCP actually already became our supporters, became supporting the ideologies of taking down the CCP. And so, if this representative were able to hear any news with the new federal state of China, we would encourage him to join us.
Yeah. Yep. Very, very good. Okay. Next topic for the day is speaking. Let me see. Where is this video I have? Speaking of propaganda. And I always say lies by omission are the equivalent of any other lie. We've got some monster flooding going on all around China and Beijing as well. That's really being not covered by the mainstream media on a global scale. And it's pretty bad. I mean, this is flooding. I'll just let it play. The audio's pretty loud. So this is leaked video out of China. That video is leaked out of China onto Twitter. It's not supposed to make it out. Why are they hiding flooding? You would think they'd want to get the sympathy of the world on their side.
No, because, the CCP will never send enough rescue teams to rescue all of these people who lived in rural areas where the natural flooding or man-made flooding happens. So the problem is that since the end of July and early August, the Chinese Communist Party actually reported several severe floodings in China. Not only, areas around Beijing, but also in the northern part in Jilin City and in Hunan provinces, hundreds of villages disappeared. after the natural flooding, after the flooding, and the CCP omitted these news and ignored to report the death numbers and the injury situation and the updates on the rescue. What you can saw from Chinese social media is merely about, Olympics medals, a number and updates from sports game. This is how CCP utilized their propaganda. They put your focus onto another side so that you ignore that people are still dying every single day because of no efforts was made by the Chinese Communist Party, because of the omission of the news. And on the other hand, right, because of the poor quality of these constructions, of the infrastructures that CCP had placed, right, when these flood came to the cities, there wasn't any early warnings. The parks are disappeared, the villages are disappeared. There weren't any accessible transportation and roads, and avenues for these people to escape from the disasters. This is what the problem is, and that the government will never give out, a natural flooding relief to these villagers. What you saw is that Chinese people disappear after these disasters, and they will never give you the real numbers.
Oh, and so it totally makes sense. They don't want to get out because their response to it is just disastrous. So people are dying because of this, and the media and the world it's unknown to them. To me, that's just heart-wrenching because even though China is controlled by the CCP, I mean, the world loves the Chinese people. I mean, would you want to get them help if you could quite possibly do it? But CCP doesn't want help. They'd rather sacrifice the people than get help for them.
That was absolutely correct. Even if, there were grants coming from overseas, the money always come to the CCP first, right? And only very few of the grant, very few of the relief were able to actually reach to the citizens of the Chinese people. So the problem here today is that if you think how many buildings, how many villages were actually destroyed in these floodings, it took them years and decades to rebuild the city, to reconstruct the villages. And however, because of the omission of the news, Chinese people doesn't even know where to donate to help these Chinese people.
Yeah, all really very, very sad. And this is the result of what happens when you are run by a virtual dictatorship where really all they care about is power and they have no care in the world for the people. They're willing to sacrifice the lives and well-being of the people for their own power and financial gain, sadly, as well. All of this is really interesting stuff, as always, Ayla Wang. I appreciate you coming on today and sharing these stories with us.
Grant, thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's always good to see you. And folks, don't forget to give the new federal state of China a follow. You can go to their website for all the information, NFSC Official, NFSCofficial.com, and check them out. That, folks, is going to do it for us. Don't forget about my website, GrantStinchfield.com, Stinchfield1776, on just about all the social media platforms. I know my friends at NFSC get mad at me because I do have a TikTok account. But here's the thing. I use a burner phone for my TikTok account. Not Grant Stinchfield is my handle there because I've been shut down so many times on TikTok. Not Grant Stinchfield. But I just try to get the message anywhere I can, folks, anywhere I can. But believe this, I don't take that phone anywhere else. And I don't have it here with me. But my burner phone, yes, like a drug dealer uses, only I use it for TikTok. It doesn't leave one location. So they don't have anything on me. And I don't use it for anything else. That's going to do it for us, folks. Stinchfield's Army rolls. We will see you back here again real soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.